All right, welcome to B lecture. Uh, thank you all for coming to class. Um, please be respectful. Uh, are you fine with questions in the middle of it? If anyone has
Yeah,
any.
yeah, yeah.
All right, cool.
You-
All right, take it away.
so first, I'm just gonna start with like, what is a conlang? Conlang is the word conlang is a portmanteau of constructed language. It's just any language that somebody has sat down and like made into a thing, like outlined the grammar. They've done all the vocabulary. There are a few different ways to make a conlang. You can either do what's called ex nihilo, which is just Latin for from nothing, which is this conlang. um, which just means that you build it up from like the ground up, or you can do conlangs that are based on languages in the real world. So you can take a language that's like old and you can evolve it as if you're moving it into modern times, or you can take a modern language and push it out into the future. But my conlang is an ex nihilo conlang, which means that I have done all of the work, like building it up from the beginning. And I start by like going into a brainstorming tab, and I just like put a bunch of things that I want in it. Um, in this case, I didn't put the phonology, which is like the set of sounds in a language. I just put some like conceptual metaphors and some things that I wanted in the language in this. Like time moves backwards, which is something that I've liked in a few natlangs. The earth is a fish, which is like culture building. There's a lot about conlanging that comes with culture building and world building. And then I did some more culture building right here, um, with like how society is laid out in like villages. And then I came into an outline and I started outlining the phonology. And I wanted from the start, I wanted it to be small. I wanted it to be um, have a lot of variation. So I did a few phonemes, and a phoneme is just any meaningfully distinct sound in a language. So in my case, I have ma as a phoneme, I have nga as a phoneme, but those can have some variation. So nga is called the velar nasal, but nga can also be nya, and nya is the palatal nasal, and those are the same phoneme because they aren't meaningfully distinct. They just have some variation depending on where they are in words. And in the case of this funky little letter right here, that is a glottal stop. That can also be a glottal fricative. So that can be either that little pause, or it can be aha with like it's just an H, but I wanted it voiced, so I made it voiced. You know? My phonemes are ma, nga, pa, ta, ka, sa, ra, and I've got e, u, ah for vowels, but those also have a lot of variation because it's small. So e can be a lot of different vowels in realization. And then I just started writing. Like, I just write, say stuff, and then I come back and I move it around or I make it different if I want to change something. So here this is syllable structure, um, CVC, which means that I can have just a vowel as a syllable. I can have consonant vowel, or I can have vowel consonant, or all three consonant vowel consonant. And then I was like, I want to do something weird with pronouns, but I don't know what I want to do with pronouns. And so I just left it there for a while. And then I started working on syntax. And then I came back and I said fourth person. And we'll get to what that means in a second. Um, but for syntax, syntax can get really funky really quickly because syntax is things like word order, head marking. So word order is just like what comes first, the verb, the subject, the object, and what order is all of that in. And I was just like, I don't know what I want to do for word order, but I know that I want it to be weird. And so actually, I went into DMs and I messaged Os and I messaged Annie, and I was just like, what should I do with word order? I want it to be weird. And Annie said VOVS, which just does not happen. And I was just like, you know what? I want to do this. And so I made verb object, and then I did X, and X is negative verbs and auxiliary verbs, and then subject. And that is that's just a case study in in talk to people who don't know anything about what you're doing because sometimes you get funky little ideas out of it. Um, and this just means the VOXS. This just means that in a sentence where there's a negative verb, you have two verbs. So there's going to be verb one, um, then there's going to be your object, and then there's going to be a negative particle, and then your verb two, and then your subject. So you have two verbs in every sentence where there's a negative, which I thought was really cool. And then after this is not in the same order on the document. After this, I started working on my pronouns, which is how we get fourth person. So I did a little bit more culture building, and I decided that this culture was going to have an emphasis on things that have some level of divine agency. So, like, if I wanted to talk to the wind, like talk about the wind, but I wanted to give the wind like a personality instead of just talking about it as an object, I would use the fourth person divine. And then you have your regular first, second, and third person. So first is I, us, we. Second is you, y'all. Third, he, she, they. But I made no gender because gender sucks. And then and then we have inflection. These are all of like the actual like phonetic realizations for my different inflections. And then I up here out of order, I have the actual like root. This language is what's called agglutinative. Agglutinative just means that it has a bunch of morphemes, and a morpheme is just a bit of meaning, and these morphemes are just tacked on to the root. So you have a small or a relatively small root with a bunch of morphemes that give it bits of meaning tacked on. And this whole section is all of those morphemes for verbs. So this changes the meaning of the the verb root. Gives it time, it gives it its relationship to other points in time, and it also gives it like a relationship to like how it fits within like an action. So it's either continuous, habitual, done, not done. I wish to do it, which is prospective. Prospective is just something that you are going to do, but you will have started it in the future. And this is just a bunch of
I have a
different.
question. I have a
Yeah.
question. How do you make sure that you like did you actually like make a word for every word, like for every for like you know
I don't
how
understand the question.
no, like did you actually make up a word or construct or whatever for every word that exists? Like, how do you make sure you didn't forget any words?
Well, that that takes a lot of practice, and really you don't ever finish a conlang. So most people who make constructed languages, they have like a set thing that they want to talk about. So they either want to write a book, they want to write poetry, or they want to talk about
Oh,
something that they like, and so they just make vocabulary surrounding that. And then if people pick it up and they like it, then they can either make more vocabulary, or you can outsource to your community, and your community can derive more vocabulary from it. I really don't
okay,
have that much vocabulary.
okay. Thanks.
Now,
But these are all, so you have tense. Tense is just where is it in time. Mood is like what is the relationship between the speaker and the agent and patient. The agent is like the person doing the thing, and the patient is the one receiving the thing. And then aspect just changes what is happening within time. So if you have like distal future and then continuous, then you it's like a continuous aspect, like continuous action in the far, far future. And then we have evidentiality. Evidentiality is just the relationship between how you received the information, and I have internal and external here. So internal is like it came from me, and external is it came from an outside source. Trustworthy internal is like I saw it happen. Untrustworthy internal is I'm like inferring it to have happened based on like prior knowledge or experience. Trustworthy external is like there's a person who was there who is telling me, and then untrustworthy external is either the person who is telling me, like if they put this, then they're just like I either got it from somewhere else, like I got it secondary, or they're just like I saw it happen, but I'm not 100% sure I interpret it correctly. And then you put these right at the beginning of your verb root. This one, trustworthy internal, can be left off. You don't have to put that one, and it's just inferred. Then I have nominal number. This nominal number is just like plurality. So I have a few different ways to do plurality. You have the dual, but right here I've said that that only happens to things that naturally come in pairs. So you can have like UK shoes, but you can't have like UK cups because cups don't naturally come in pairs. The semi-plural is a weird thing that I did with numbers. So anything that is more than 2 but less than 60 is semi-plural, just because there's a base 60 number system, and then plural is anything greater than 60. And then the divine don't have a semi-plural, but they do have a plural. The base 60 number system with the semi-plural is a little bit finicky though, because I've made it so that it kind of floats around a bit. So if there's just like a vague large amount of things and you want to emphasize that it's like a medium-ish size, you could use the semi-plural. But if it's like a large amount of things, even if it's like 40 or 50, but you want to emphasize that it's a lot of that thing, you can use the plural. And then I have my dictionary, and I don't really have a lot of words right now, which gets back to the how do you make vocabulary. Um, I just make example sentences. There's one right down here. Um, I just find example sentences out in the wild and translate them. This one is Kilroy was here, which is a meme going back to like the 1880s. Um, and I find example sentences and I translate them. Sometimes I'll ask like us or Annie like, hey, give me a sentence. I want to translate it. And then I'll come in here and I'll make vocabulary or derive vocabulary for all of the words that I need in that sentence, and then I'll translate them. I am working on numbers right now. I'll go over that. My numbers are base 60, which means that when you're writing it, you have 60 symbols for each number, but it's got a sub base 6, sorry. So when you're talking, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the numbers start combining after that. But each one of these is still only one word. It doesn't start becoming, and I haven't gotten as far as 60, but when I get to 60, it will start like you will have your own separate word for 60. And then that's where everything starts to like combine fully. Like every now and then, see at 12, there's still another word. But after 60, it's only going to be the multiples of 60 that get their own words. I think that's it.
Question.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. Do you think like these conlangs? I think you called them.
Yeah.
Do you think those are like political in a way? Because like I don't know. Do you would you say it's like art? And if it is art, it's probably also political, right? Because like art
Oh
is
yeah.
always political. And like, would you say it's art?
I would definitely say it's art. So there's different there's different ways to make conlangs. So what I'm making is what would usually be called a mini lang, just because it's small. It's got a small phonology. It's got a like not very fleshed out lexicon, which is just the dictionary. But there are different types of languages. So there's like englangs, which is like an engineer's language, which is designed to be like efficient and designed to not have as much ambiguity. There's art langs. There's like philosophical langs, which are all designed to serve their own purpose. And one thing that I really like is like persolangs or personlangs, which are like personal languages. And I guess this muti, which is the name of this language, would fall under that category where it's like it's a language designed to fit your worldview and how you see world anything, art, politics. And that can be like a very personal experience and definitely a very political experience because if you go online and you start like looking at grammars for conlangs, you start seeing that certain people have different ways of conlanging depending on like how they view different things. So it's like one, it is art, and two, it's a very personal art. Any more questions? I like questions.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Um, you made numbers, and like, do you also make like the when you like calculate with them, is it like also different?
Yes.
Okay. Oh God. Okay.
Any more questions? Don't think so. Okay.
Thank you so much, V. That was really fucking cool. I really enjoyed that. Um,
Yay.
woo! Thank you, V. Super cool. Super cool conlang. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for being here,
That was
classroom.
fun. Classroom.